Yeah, yeah. Hi guys, I'm Mike Malloy from Malloy's Craft Butchery. I'm super excited to be here at the Grillo studio today. We're comparing a budget supermarket steak, a premium supermarket steak, and my own retired dairy 50-day dry age. So for me over the last 5 years, supermarkets have come a long way to improving their steaks. However, they're not able to dry age the way we are. They've got too high a turnover. So for me, the biggest difference is the amount of dry age that we have on our steaks, which increases flavour and increases tenderness. This is a 12 or 13-year-old animal. It needs about 50 days of dry age to really get the best from it. So dry aging is a process where we have our fridge set exactly to 1 degree and we keep it between 67 and 72% humidity. So for this is a retired dairy ribeye, but this needs about 50 days of dry age. You'll often see people talk about 30 days. On a younger cow, that would probably be sufficient. You'll often see the term aged. Now that doesn't mean dry aged, that can mean wet aging. So what happens is that a fresh cow will be cut up by a butcher and then it'll be put into a vacuum pack to sit in its own blood. You're not intensifying the flavour, you're not intensifying anything by doing that. However, dry aging is the way forwards. You're going to notice a massive difference in flavour, a massive difference in intensity, and a really, really nice tender texture that you expect from a high quality steak. With dry aging, you're looking to lose between 10 and 15% of the weight. Now that weight is all water. Water is flavourless, so when you take out 15% of water, you intensify flavour. Also what happens over that time is, without wishing to get too technical, when an animal dies, rigor mortis sets in. Now rigor mortis is what makes an animal go stiff when it dies, okay? Something the size of a cow, it takes at least 30 days for that rigor mortis to dissipate from the body. You're also getting a continual bacterial breakdown of the meat, which allows you to get a really, really tender steak at the end of the process. So now I'm gonna unwrap these and we'll take a look at the different textures and the different types of fats that are in these ribeyes. So now that we've got the steaks unpacked, we can see we've got a budget, a premium, and then a butcher's steak. So looking at the differences between them, these have got quite a lot of grain in the diet. You can tell by the feel. They're very, very soft. They're a little bit wet, a little bit floppy with it being sort of vacuum packed. That's the sort of standard. This had some grass in its diet, but it's definitely had a lot of grain. Something like this, you can see a little bit firmer. That's going to have more grass in its diet. You can also see by the colour of the fat. This white fat here means that it's sort of more grain fed. This beautiful yellow fat means it's going to have slightly more grass in its diet. So for me, when it comes to steak, I would always say that it's a mixture of flavour versus tenderness, right? You're going to have to trade off one for the other sometimes. With a grain-fed beef like this, or a higher grain-fed, you're going to get less flavour, but slightly more tender. It's why the supermarkets will use grain-fed beef in their steaks, because people want a tender steak. They don't want to be eating shoe leather. With ours, it's more about trying to get the balance of both. So we've got really, really fantastic flavour, while still having a lovely, soft, tender steak. If you don't have a local butcher near you, and you were looking for recommendations of supermarkets that you could use, I won't mention brands, but certain places that start with A and end in Aldi, that rhyme with Lewis Capaldi, maybe. Not a bad place to start. They've got some great breeds, some lovely Wagyu in there. Just go to your butchers. I mean, if you look at these supermarkets, they've got massive queues where I can guarantee a good butcher will be able to serve you quickly, efficiently, and with some fantastic customer service. So we're gonna get these 3 ribeyes on the Grillo Gusto and see how they come out. So we have the retired dairy, the expensive supermarket, and the cheap supermarket. I think for me, the biggest thing about a steak is it should be a treat, right? We should all eat less meat, but eat the good stuff when we do. If you've got all your friends coming round, you want to know where that steak's come from, you want to know its backstory, you want to discuss with your butcher the best ways to cook it. Woo. Let's give these a rest and then have a go. So we have our 3 steaks, the budget, the premium supermarket, and then the retired dairy. Let's see how they come out. So interestingly, they were cooked at exactly the same time. They're pretty much the same thickness. The budget has taken much longer to cook. It's much more rare because it's much more of a grain-fed beef, because it's got a little bit more moisture left in it. That's going to take longer for that moisture to dissipate, therefore longer to cook. They're all relatively soft, but it all comes down to the taste test. So just a finishing salt, just to bring a little bit of flavour out there. So we have our budget, our premium supermarket, and then our retired dairy. Let's try them. So from that, it's tender, doesn't have a huge amount of flavour. You can obviously tell there's a lot of water still in there. It's okay. Premium supermarket again, tender, nice flavour, a better flavour than the budget one. Not a bad steak. Retired dairy. Straight away you get hit with this power of flavour. A really, really strong beefy flavour. You know that you're going to taste that for a few minutes. It's not just going to dissipate as soon as you swallow. For me, this win hands down. Really fantastic steak, cooked beautifully. So, people often ask me how I serve my steak. With more steak. I suppose you could add some greenery like some rocket.